Hi, I'm Max Johnson, host of the American News Network, here to bring you just news.
And I'm Sam Green, his co-anchor at American News Network.
Alongside Bryce Fontenmuller and Shane Odom. Here to bring you news. Now to the field to Shane Odom, who investigates Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Let's see what he has to say.
Thanks, Max. I got my shades here because there's a lot of bright ideas being thrown around by President Woodrow Wilson. His 14 points were released on January 8th, 1918. Though they called for a peaceful and progressive end to World War I, although he did present them before the armistice was called in November of 1918, more than 6 months after he presented his points. And as an idealist president, his points were more or less ideal. They called for no economic barriers, freedom of the seas, no secret alliances between nations, the reduction of arms, and they dealt also with territorial changes and were mainly for a utopian world, which we do not live in, which is evident by the fact that only one of his 14 points was actually in the Treaty of Versailles, which was signed in 1919.
I like that, Shane, with all the bright ideas. Well, you kind of forgot some of your ideas, Shane. You didn't realize you had the Big Four coming up. So back to you, Shane, with the Big Four. Let's hear some more of those bright ideas.
I'm sorry, what was it? I'm back on? Okay, well, I forgot to talk about the Big Four, and I'm taking off my jacket because they are blazing with their ideas out there. Woodrow Wilson of the U.S., David Lloyd George of Great Britain, Vittorio Orlando of Italy, and George Clemenceau of France. They were the big decision makers of the Paris Peace Conference, even though the four of them made and held several secret meetings that made huge decisions in the conference. There were more than 20 other nations present. There were 5 treaties signed at the conference. The most well-known is the Treaty of Versailles that was signed with Germany, the Treaty of Saint Germain with Austria, the Treaty of Neuilly with Bulgaria, the Treaty of Trianon with Hungary, and the Treaty of Sevres with the Ottoman Empire, which dissolved it. Now to Bryce von Mühlen, the German in Germany.
Well, thank you very much, Shane, for all those bright ideas about the Big Four and the 14 points. I would like to say, over here in Germany, the mood and tone is not too positive. I got to say, they're very unhappy with what happened here at the Paris Peace Conference and in the Treaty of Versailles. They were not allowed to participate in the Paris Peace Conference after the war. Right as the war ended, they were forced to hand over their heavy artillery, their navy, and all the Allies now have to occupy them for 15 years after the war. And after that time, they're going to see what happens then. And so they're never not happy with what's come out of the war. They're also not allowed to engage in war or invade anybody else at the moment right now with a limited amount of supplies. And they were not allowed to participate. And the options that the Big Four gave them, they could either sign the treaty or keep fighting the war, which was not something they did not want to do at all. And the reparations that they had to pay amounted to about 24 billion euros in today's money, which back then was a lot of money, and they were already struggling as it is. And so after the war, the economy here in Germany crippled and caused a lot of unrest and negative vibes coming out of the country here, and people were very unhappy with how it was a one-sided kind of unfair treaty, and how the 14 points were not included. Everything except the League of Nations was accepted by the conference, and so Wilson did not do a very successful. That's all I got to say here from Berlin. Back to Max and Sam in the studio.
Thanks, Bryce. As a result of war, many empires or nations had to give up part of their colonies, even their homeland. Although many new nations were formed, in the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was forced to give up Belgium, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. all German colonies became, or what are known as, mandates for the League of Nations. Basically, it was like a joint ownership. Germany's western border with Czechoslovakia was demilitarized. It was all said and done, Germany, China, USSR, Austria, Hungary, Turkey, Bulgaria, and the UK had to give up territory as a result of World War One. Many new nations were formed in the Middle East, such as Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon. Furthermore, the USSR collapsed, forming many new nations such as Yugoslavia, Hungary, Albania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Let's send it to you, Sam, to talk about the League of Nations.
Thanks, Max. I'm here to talk about the League of Nations. The League of Nations started as a proposal from Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. The League of Nations was supposed to be an international organization that he dreamed would provide a system of collective security. In other words, he wanted to stop all wars from happening again. The League of Nations looked to support world stability and prevent more war. It was to be based in Geneva, Switzerland, because Switzerland had not fought in World War I and was considered to be a neutral country. The Red Cross had already been based here too. If a country was misbehaving in the League could order other countries to stop trading with them. If this failed, they could use physical sanctions. They didn't have an army, so this didn't really work. America opposed it, refused to join. This was a big blow to the reputation of the League. Germany, under the Treaty of Versailles, could not join. Russia couldn't join also for being a communist country. The reason America did not want to join was because they did not want to support troops for international affairs. Back to you, Max.
Sam, I don't know what the deal is with you and Shane, but you have another topic to talk about. Did you forget about why the U.S. was not signing? What's the holdup?
Well, Max, the holdup with the signing was that the U.S. wanted to be isolated from the rest of the world. They did not want to be involved in the worldly affairs that everybody else was involved in. The Treaty of Versailles was part of the League of Nations, so the U.S. didn't want to sign it because they didn't want to be part of the League of Nations. They didn't want to be part of the League of Nations because they didn't want to support the League of Nations army and use their troops for international affairs. The U.S. also didn't agree with Germany being responsible for the war and the high price they had to pay. The U.S. did not really blame anybody for the start of the war, so they did not want to make Germany pay for something they didn't do. Instead of signing the Treaty of Versailles, the U.S. decided to sign a treaty in Berlin that would end the war, in their eyes. Wilson was anti-imperialist, so the U.S. did not want to be involved in all the international affairs going on that the League of Nations would be involved in, and that's why they didn't want to sign the treaty. Back to you at the station, Max. Thank you.
Well, that's it for the American News Network. I'm Max Johnston.
And I'm Sam Green, signing off.
Thank you for watching. Tune in another time as we bring you more great American news for the American people.